Hello, good evening. My name is Lamin Njie. Thank you for being there. This is News Review. Coming up on the show, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp go down the world over, including the Gambia. Citizens have been reacting to that major internet outage there. Standoff ensues between police and global home officials at latest row gripped property in Bijilo. Yesterday we have the two SRFAL over the weekend who held a massive rally at buffer zone. Today my guest will be Lamin Damfa. He's the executive director of CepRass. CepRass recently conducted its first pre-election poll, which showed the National People's Party leading, but you have people really who do not trust in the poll there. He will be my guest to talk about that poll. Before all of that, we will see what the newspapers are saying today. We will begin with the Standard newspaper. Their lead report is on Chromium there. The company has been suspended, saying Chromium's license is suspended. The Minister of Information and Communications Infrastructure, Ibrahim Asila, has suspended GSM provider Chromium with effect from today, 5th October 2021. The Standard has been reliably informed. 2 weeks ago, the company was given an ultimatum by the regulatory body PURA to settle $65 million by October 1st in respect of its unpaid license requirements. Well, Chromium was only able to make partial payments, and today the company has been suspended, and this suspended this suspension will run through November 4th there. Let's see the other story there. Opposition slams opinion poll as out of touch. A recent pre-election opinion poll conducted by the Center for Policy Research and Strategic Studies, CepRass, which suggested that the National People's Party is likely to win the December presidential election, has been met with swift rebuttal by the United Democratic Party and the Gambia Democratic Congress. According to the survey, even though there is still a large pool of undecided voters at 40%, the majority of the 60% decided voters said NPP is likely to win, followed by UDP, APRC, and GDC. However, UDP spokesman Al-Mamital told the Standard, he said, it does not reflect the realities on the ground. In addition, the data parameter seems to be narrow and does not mirror the data set of the electorate, of which 57% are women. The opinion poll only reports half of that. So in my view, this is a significant issue. That is Al-Mamital's reaction there. Another story there is saying, he's talking about permit denial makes hashtag no to coalition stronger. The rival faction of former President Jammeh's APRC, opposed to the party's backing of President Barrow, has accused the police of unjustifiably denying them permit to hold rallies, but added also that the permit denial has made them even stronger. Another story is saying another story that, let's now see the point. I think that's all for the Standard. We'll see the point. Standard is the point is reporting a 3-year-old boy killed a 4-year-old. According to reports reaching the point, a 4-year-old boy was stabbed to death by a 3-year-old in Samis Ruakunda Central River region on 30th of September 2021. Equatorial Guinea, that's another story. Equatorial Guinea, USA, served court documents to Jammeh. Official court documents of the U.S. District Court of Maryland, acquired by the point, confirmed that the Yahya Jammeh family in Equatorial Guinea have been served with the U.S. court documents requiring their response to suits of forfeiture against properties in the U.S. Sources also confirm that the president of Equatorial Guinea, Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo, said to the ambassador of the U.S. to Equatorial Guinea that documents were indeed sent to the Jammeh residents in his country there. The same have also been confirmed by Justice Minister of Equatorial Guinea. That will be that for the newspapers. We'll be right back. Now, Facebook and WhatsApp as well as Instagram went down yesterday for nearly 7 hours. In the Gambia, it caused a lot of misery to citizens. More in this report.
Billions of users around the world were affected yesterday. Some describe it a day of darkness. Businessmen and pedestrians tell the Fati Network they have lost huge sum of money yesterday. Lamin, a businessman at CNC Best Chicken, says his business dealings were seriously hit hard yesterday. Mr. Singate adds that as a businessman, he has linked with international businessmen mainly through WhatsApp and Facebook. Alaji Jeng, a pedestrian, explained that most of the people he chats with are on WhatsApp. He says he was very lonely yesterday and his phone was of no use. Mamadou Jamban, a resident of Njie, says he needed to communicate with someone who promised him money and the person is in the diaspora, but due to WhatsApp breakdown, he could not get the money. The CEO of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, on Monday evening issued a statement saying he was sorry for the disruption. The entire episode lasted for nearly 7 hours. Officials said an internal error caused the outage. Reporting for the Fati Network, I am Isa Ba.
Now, there was a standoff between police and officials of Global Home at their Rao-gripped anti-crime, previously occupied by anti-crime. That's their property in Bijilo. The Sheriff Division officials from the Sheriff Division yesterday went to the property and handed the property back to their owners. That's Global Home officials. But then police were there and attempted to remove them from that property. So this property, government wants the property to build a hotel on the property ahead of the OIC. More in this. Police anti-crime recently vacated the property, but the state has expressed unwillingness to give the property back to its rightful owners, Global Home. It has been revealed the state wants to hand the property to a private investor to build a hotel there as part of the OIC summit in the Gambia. An official from the Sheriff Division on Monday, however, accompanied Global Home officials to hand back the property to them. But police came, led by Inspector Hatabah, and attempted to remove them from the property.
Absolutely not. But I want us to understand each other and to be on record why you are here and what we are doing. We need to be clear. That's why I'm asking the questions. I just need us to be clear.
For you guys to live here. Any doubt? If you have any doubt, you can go to Santa and ask.
But then you are here for us to live. Under what basis? Because this is our property. So that's why I say before I leave, let me call our lawyer because she was the one that asked the sheriff to bring us, and the sheriff left. The sheriff came and handed the property back to us. So now it is for us to do whatever we need to do because it is ours. So if you come here under authorities that you cannot tell us who, I need to consult the lawyer to tell him what is happening.
No, but anyway,
I think that's the right thing to do.
No, the other here, try and do everything what is possible to go together.
No, we will go together. We will go together.
The police later abandoned the act after receiving a call that the property had been handed over to Global Home by the Sheriff Division.
Through observing you, I know you will not force yourself, here illegally like that. You must have enough reasons why you are here. So I need to find out, exactly what's the problem. All right. So since I was seeing, all the documents were shown to me, I know everything is legal here. There is nothing, illegal. Maybe perhaps, when the directives came, maybe they could not understand what kind of people, are here. Because, in fact, we have a different message that you are on a press conference, maybe perhaps it could be an illegal gathering. Because if you need to have, such, conferences, you need to have a permit from the Inspector General of Police, all right? So, but I made things different. This is why, I am with my mind. I am open, to speak to you so that, because without that, I might not know exactly what is happening, or what's, your reason, of being here. But everything is shown to me, and I appreciate, you too.
Nene Gomez is an official of Global Home.
Minister of Land wrote to us and say they are taking back, they are revoking the lease. Okay, we went back to court. When we went back to court, the whole process went through, and it was realized like that was illegal to do that because we were able to prove our intent, our ambitions of what was here and what we intend to do, continue to do. But they were not able to substantiate or prove beyond reasonable doubt why they want to take the property from us. And of course, we understood that according to them, which we know that government has the right to take over any land because every land government owns it. But then again, the same law that gives government the right to take over any land gives a condition. You take a property from an individual for a community use, for a use of a bigger number, not for an individual use. And we were able to prove to the courts that the intention that they want to take this land from us is not for the interest of a community, but it was an interest of an individual or a few. And we were able to establish that they have already have dealings with an individual investor who wants to build a hotel on this property, and they will use it for the OIC. After the OIC, the individual will continue to use it, run it as a private hotel. We were able to establish that. So the courts realized that their interest supersedes their own interest, which is an individual interest. But of course, all the time they hide under the OIC. But no, it's not anything that has to do with OIC.
Global Home of Medical Mission is an international NGO seeking to build a hospital in the country. But this Bijilo property has continued to be in the hands of the state since it was illegally seized by former President Njie many years ago. Now, over the weekend, SRFAL held a massive rally at Buffer Zone, attended by thousands of citizens. More in this.
SRFAL arrived Buffer Zone to much fanfare. Thousands of citizens attended the meeting. Speaking at the meeting, Mr. Fall was certainly impressed by the turnout and he declared that the love is real.
Wow. Wow. You are really impressive. Gani wax dega neex yalla suma xol sedana. Gaay dañ waxoon ne kenn duy feesal Buffer Zone waaye tey gis naa lu daw suma yaram. Xam nga soo seetee Facebook 73,000 nga gis.
Ako niya Facebook TV 73,000 ni be wala jala.
Waaye ñun ay nañ 700,000.
Bari to tata la ko 700,000 la block.
The love is real.
The turnaround independent presidential hopeful says there will be a turnaround of the country once it takes power in December.
Why the important for you?
Very important pour tout Gambie.
Moy comme December 4.
December 4.
Ñu jëlaat suñu réew.
Wanda ba kota.
Ñu def a turnaround.
Ma turnaround ke.
Ñu jëlee nguur gi.
Ci loxo ñoo xam ne. Ka bonni bu ko no.
Ñoo xam ne mënuñ.
Men ñaara koy ma do.
Amuñ xam-xamam.
Imam lo do su ko.
Amuñ dooleem.
Imam te mo su ko.
Ñu teg nguur gi.
Yéen ma sa ko na londi.
Ci ko loxo ñoo xam ne.
Ya di men sa sa mano.
Am nañ xam-xam bi.
Mais lo do su ko.
Am nañ doole bi.
Yes sa mo su ko.
Mun nañ yoo yóbbu réew mi.
Sa mano.
Ñu defal ay yoon. Ñoo xam ne du naxaate.
Mais ma nga ne ne
ñu jox ñu utal ñu ci liggéey.
Ya do ko di yu son.
Ñu indi any medical insurance ku ci nekk di mun a faju soo demee lopitaan.
medical insurance o sama pour man besi jaran mo.
ñuy jënd ay ambulance ak medical equipment instead of pick up drugs for campaign.
Mr. Fall also disclosed his campaign will reach out to opposition parties to come and join his team.
dinañ wër réew mi. One nit lan moo fi xew. Invite other political parties ñu ñëw join ñu.
The political parties don't invite president Kafunna.
ñun ñëpp ñu bokka. génnee fi problème bi fi nekk.
No problem on kondi melbe teeru ne
ñu def a turnaround.
Earlier, Kidabo Fati, who recently ditched his presidency bid and endorsed Mr. Fall, explained why he entered into politics.
Niaje medu na politiko do.
So do they need to see politic?
Njagal tale.
Enjoy
Mbata tale.
Exona.
Manta no nyato.
Munu ñoo dem kana.
Jutukan na.
Xeeb nañ ñu.
Iman na sama dinna.
Ko ñu suñ elek.
Woto bi ni nga na sama je ñanda bulala no.
Suñ gisee suñ elek ko ñu demal suñ elek.
Mr. Fall campaign for president has only entered its 6 weeks, but observers say the former CepRass council is becoming more and more popular among the voters. Reporting for the Fatu Network, I am Isaba.
Thank you. Tonight, I have Mr. Lamin Damfa. He's the Executive Director of Center for Policy, Research and Strategic Studies. Well, the center recently held its first pre-election opinion poll, which showed, the National People's Party leading in the poll in terms of the election, the December presidential election. These and other things really were captured in this survey. This is a survey that has sparked a lot of reaction. So Damfa is the head of the CepRass, and he joins me now. We'll talk about this survey. Mr. Damfa, thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for having me.
Great. First off, this survey or the poll that you conducted, when exactly did you conduct this poll?
Well, this poll, in fact, I should put it this way, the interviews were conducted between 27th of July to 10th August, barely 2 weeks for the data collection. But before that, we had series of meetings to look at, relevant questions to be asked, to develop, the questionnaire and so on. But the actual data collection, well, the interview was based on a random sampling that that we have used to get the required number of respondents that will make our data collection reliable and valid. So we have, from the sampling, we have about 969 respondents across the country. We put the, households, stratify them, into LGAs, those are the local government areas. And of course, you know that we have about 48 districts. So the households are also, in each stratum, we have about, we also put household into 34 districts across the country. Now, after that, what we did was to use the integrated household survey, the updated one 2013, to determine, because that is the frame that we use, if you like. Mm-hmm. We are able to assign numbers to those districts where we are able to, interview them. You should also bear in mind that in a survey like this, which was held through telephone call, to cater for non-responses, we've also did what we call oversampling, about 50%. But that oversampling is within the district, the same characteristics, because it is a random sampling. So we ensure that, depending on the size of the district, in that proportionate way, the sampling was done. So the oversampling was at the district level. Those we cannot get are replaced to ensure that we get the required sample size of 969.
900. So is 969 people or households? Because in your report you said households. So is this individuals 969 or houses?
Well, either way, it is correct, because the frame that we use is an integrated household. So it was the household. How do we go about it? If you look at the household, normally they have their telephone numbers, at least one telephone number to the maximum of 3. So we call this household. And most times, as we know, in a typical setup of the Gambia, it is a male-dominated household. But bear in mind that if you look at the voter population in this country, it comprises of a good chunk of women voters as well, which is in fact the highest, the young people as well. So when we call a household, we get a man this time. So the next call, we request for a woman, preferably, the wife or the daughter. And the next one, we look for young people. That is the way, we arrange. But all the same, survey like this are never 100%.
Yes.
So if you look at our report, we indicated that we have about, I think, 28% of women, even though that is less than, the percentage of women voters. But that is at the end of the day, that is what we get. But if you look at the young people, for example, from age of 18 to 44, we have about 63. I think that is a good number. But for women voters, we are short of the kind of percentage, we get in the voter register.
And if you look at your report, you are saying that you got 95%. That's a staggering percentage in terms of the people that responded. These are all people that you say are going to vote. 95%.
Yes.
Are all voters.
Now, when we call them, one of the first questions we ask whether they have a voter's card, because that is a very important determinant factor here. So from that question, we have about 95% who have confirmed that they really have the voter's card. So meaning they are potential voters.
Now, if you look at the breakdown, for example, in terms of the people and their choices, in terms of the election, the parties that they want to put into office, you have the National People's Party leading, 29%. You have UDP at around 13%. And then you have the other political parties. And then you have 40%. That is massive of people who responded that they've not made up their mind.
Yes.
So how do you see that, the issue of the non-decided voters or the undecided voters?
Well, when we conduct this survey, in fact, we ensure that before the interview starts, we sought for their consent to really take part, to ensure that they are not being forced or coerced to take part in this voting. So, having sought their consent, we go ahead to interview them. Now, this particular question, in fact, the survey itself, it is a host of questions that looks at, various issues of national interest. And specifically, the question that has become, very contentious was, the question on the intention to vote. Now, if you look at that, we have two questions here: intention to vote and the party that is likely to win. You understand? Now, if you look at the intention to vote, you understand, these are people who did not make up their mind. You ask them question, well, they said up to now they have not seen their choice. Now,
that's what they tell you.
Yes, in fact, to further collaborate, that percentage, if you get to the likely candidate to win, that's about 40%. It almost resonates, 43, 40. You understand? So it is not a question of they don't understand the question or the question is being ambiguous. No.
Yes.
So these two questions are being asked deliberately to ensure that at least to see the reliability of our question. So if you look at the two questions, the percentages are almost the same. It resonates. You see, so that is the situation. So that these huge amount of people said they are undecided.
They are undecided.
Yes.
If you look at the survey, what it has also triggered a lot of reaction.
Yes.
You have the parties that were sampled.
Yeah.
You have UDP, you have NPP. When it came out and UDP got 13%, you have a lot of people in the UDP camp who tried to cast doubt on this very survey, on this very poll, that this is totally off the mark, is grossly inaccurate.
And why do they say that?
They simply do not trust in your investigation.
Well, of course, a survey like this, an opinion poll, this is the first of its kind to this magnitude I'm talking about. Although, there are also non-scientific polls that are organized. This is quite scientific. Now, it is natural, you understand, that polls like this definitely always will attract, those kind of, reservation here and there. In fact, we expect that, those kind of reaction. That is natural, you understand. But one thing that I can assure to the governments and your viewers in particular is the fact that the poll itself is quite scientific, you understand. Because if you look at the whole process itself, and try to prepare the instruments at the time. I mean, others talk about flawed in our methodology. In fact, a particular opinion came on Standard this morning. In fact, I think we've sent our reply. Hopefully it will be out, tomorrow. In fact, the problem most people are cited is the fact that, the methodology did not go enough to explain. And I think it is irrelevant if you like try to enumerate those technicalities in terms of how we did the sampling. And in fact, it is normal to solve, some part of your methodology, even in academic writing. That is normal not to give out, because the whole idea is we are communicating to the people. We should not bore them with a lot of technicalities that the sampling here and this is how it has been done. No.
Nobody really has time for
that.
Yes,
and that is why we always say that if you have reservation, you contact us. We give you a breakdown on how the sampling is done. You understand? And again, if you look at the whole process itself, we use the integrated household, which is a random sampling of 14,191. And in any statistics, if you use a random sample, and then you randomize that, your own sample is also a random sample. It's here and there. Here, I also want to tell your viewers that we are not actually predicting the winners. In fact, if you look at our survey, it looks at a host of issues, from even rating the government performance. So these are questions of national interest. So it was only these 1-2 questions that everybody picked and start talking about them. That is not our objective as far as this poll is concerned. In fact, to really predict the winner would come in our next poll that is coming 1 month before the election.
1 month before the election.
Yes.
But also, I have seen the National People's Party welcoming the poll results, and the party is putting its strong performance on the unwavering efforts on the part of the President Adama Barrow, in transforming the nation. This is why Gambians, responded positively.
Well, I think that would be a political question. I'm not sure I can respond to that. One thing that I want to make clear, whether you endorse CepRass or not, that will never change our position, and that will not make to lean
on any
camp.
Because I think that is very important. I've seen people even say that maybe it is in fact government that sponsored you to come up with such a poll.
I have seen that for democracy based in US, they sponsor the poll and they have given us, adequate funding to do this. That is why we are even going to do 3 polls. We're also going to do, post-election polls as well to see the performance of government in 100 days. So that is not true. And besides, you should also understand that CepRass is an independent research center that is managed and run by a constituted group, of high caliber. In fact, the opinion poll is just one of the surveys we have done. We have series of surveys we conduct. And in fact, we're just from a training on a survey on the returning migrants. It's an impact evaluation that we are doing alongside with the Center for Evaluation and Development based in Germany. So you can see we are always busy looking at a lot of issues. This is one of the activities that we have done. So it's not only our focus. When we release these results, we are into other business.
Attacking,
that is their opinion. And again, even those who attacked, we are not angry about that. It is natural that such thing could happen. So normally what we do, people that come with some points, we try to, tell them our methodology, and we have in fact agreed with some people, after explaining to them, about how we conducted these polls. It's quite credible, let me assure you. Of course, it is an opinion poll, and no opinion poll is perfect, you understand. Of course, there could be some issues that I have earlier highlighted, but generally, that cannot discredit the poll itself.
And in your poll, the report too, you've also said, well, a lot of Gambians believe or think the IEC has done a very good job so far in administering the election.
Yeah, I think IEC's issue in the polls, in fact, there was an endorsement for IEC's work. You know, how they are able to avoid registering foreigners, for example. I mean, I think generally the response from that has been very high. So that was an endorsement for IEC's work.
And also I've seen, you know, I mean, SFR, should be, I mean, a little over a month since he announced that he will be running for president. And you've seen a lot of Gambians going to him. Yeah. You are saying 40% were undecided. You did your survey interviews in July and August, I guess.
Yeah.
So if that was the case, and now you are a lot of people would tell you that these are the undecided, these fence sitters, now they are with SFR. So you have some people who may say, well, maybe you're
important. This is done, I mean, it's 27 July to 10th August. So bear in mind, Asa did not, you know, came to the, you know, in fact, we don't know that he was contesting. And even in the survey, if you see, you know, other parties like NRP also stand. You understand? Later on, the communication came clearly that
they affect your poll in any way.
In fact, the next poll, what we are saying, we're going to capture all of that.
And,
so,
and SFR.
Exactly, SFR, and not only SFR contested. So I mean, I think that will give. In fact, the first poll, the objective of the first poll is to look at host of issues. And the response have been very clear that should not, that we feel would set the stage before election. So I mean, I repeat this.
The issue of the report, and you have a lot of Gambians who are not really literate people on your report. I think that would be very important.
Yeah, even the funders are very much going to put them into infographics and animation videos in different languages, and we will have a talk in the population should be able to, especially those illiterates, put a lot of information not only in text but also, you know, in audios, you know, that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So today my guest was Mr. Lamin, the executive, the National People's Party, as leading regarding the December presidential election.